Good morning, friends. Happy Tuesday. Today is Tuesday, May 5th. Um, and we are going to jump right into our read aloud today. The book is a little longer today, so I apologize if this video is a little long, but the pictures are beautiful. So I hope you guys pay attention to those and enjoy them. So, as always, let's get started by finding where the materials are. So in front of you, you should either have a piece of paper and a pencil, or you can print out the paper that is in the folder online. So we're going to go into the first grade folder, read aloud. This week is May 4th to May 8th. And we're going to go into Tuesday 5/5 because that is today. And then here you'll find the book, and then the exit ticket or the question for the exit ticket is at the end. And then here you have the questions that we're going to answer throughout the video, as well as the exit ticket at the end that you can write on. All right, now that we've got that out of the way, we can get started. So our story today is called Abuela. And I know that a lot of you know that abuela is the word for grandma in Spanish. Um, so there's going to be some Spanish in this book. I have to warn you all that my Spanish is not very good. So if I don't pronounce things the right way, I apologize. But like we tell you guys, we got to try our best. So that's what I'm going to do. So let's get started. This book is called Abuela by Arthur Doros, illustrated by Elisa Cleven. I'm not sure. Abuela takes me on the bus. We go all around the city. Abuela is my grandma. She is my mother's mother. Abuela means grandma in Spanish. Abuela speaks mostly Spanish because that's what people spoke where she grew up before she came to this country. Abuela and I are always going places. Today we're going to the park. El parque es lindo, says Abuela. I know what she means. I think the park is beautiful too. So you'll notice as we read this book, whenever Abuela says something in Spanish, the girl will give us a clue about what the grandma is saying. So when Abuela says El parque es lindo, some of you might already know what that means, but for those of us who don't, when the girl says, I think the park is beautiful too, we know that Abuela said that she thinks that the park is beautiful. Tantos pájaros, Abuela says, as a flock of birds surrounds us. So many birds. So that's what tantos pájaros means. So many birds. They're picking up the bread we brought. So look at all of those birds, lots of different colors. We see a lot of people in the park. These illustrations are beautiful. So we're going to stop right there because we can already answer the first three questions. Here are my fingers. The first three questions on our paper. So the first question is, who is the main character? Now, I think you all can answer this really fast, but I'm going to give you a little bit to answer this question. Who is the main character? Go ahead. All right, so we know that the story is being told from the little girl's point of view. And usually, when the story is being told by one of the characters' point of view, that character is the main character. And we know that because down here, or in the story, we see words like my, or I, or me. Um, and that means that it's being told from the little girl's perspective. Because it says Abuela is my grandma, she is my mother's mother. That means that this little girl is talking about her grandma. So the little girl, we don't know her name yet. We're probably going to learn it. The little girl is the main character. What do we know about the main character so far? That's our next question. So the main character is the little girl. What do we know about her so far? Um, I'm going to flip through the first few pages that we've read while you guys answer the question. Go ahead. All right, so what do we know about the main character so far? So far in this story, we've seen her go on the bus with her grandma or her abuela, and that she understands some Spanish because she calls her grandmother abuela. And whenever her grandmother speaks to her in Spanish, she understands what her grandmother is saying. Um, we also know that she loves, or we know that she goes on adventures with her grandmother, like going to the park, going on the bus, and she seems pretty happy about it. So we know that she likes to go on adventures with her grandmother. So the most important things that we know about the main character so far is that he likes to go on adventures with her grandmother, and that she can understand Spanish. Now we can answer the third question. Who are some other important characters? Now there's just one other important character, and we've already met her, and I bet you guys already know who she is. So take a little bit to answer that question. Go ahead. All right, so the other important character is the character that the little girl interacts with the most, the one that the little girl talks about the most. The other important character is her abuela or her grandmother. So you can either write down abuela or grandmother, um, and that is the other important character. All right, let's keep going. What if they picked me up and carried me high above the park? What if I could fly? Abuela would wonder where I went. Swooping like a bird, I'd call to her. So now the birds have scooped her up and she's flying over the park. Then she'd see me flying. Rosalba the bird. Rosalba el pájaro. Pa- pájaro, she'd say. Then, abuela. Come, abuela, I'd say. Sí, quiero volar. Abuela would reply as she leaped into the sky with her skirt flapping in the wind. So now we can actually answer the next two questions as well. What is the setting and what is the problem? So the first question is, what is the setting? So take about a minute to answer that question. I'll flip through the pages and try to get into a more Spanish language mindset because clearly I am not doing well. But you guys can answer the question, what is the setting of this story? Go ahead. All right, so when we're figuring out this setting, we can look at the pictures and we can look for clues in the text. And there's actually one clue, the very first page. It says, Abuela takes me on the bus. We go all around the city. So, all around the city. And we're going to see if they actually go all around the city. And as we flip through the pages, they do go all around the city. So, it's not just Rosalba because we figured out the main character's name, Rosalba. It's not all around Rosalba's neighborhood. Um, she might have to go a little bit outside of her neighborhood to get to this park, or clearly she needs to go outside her neighborhood to fly. Um, so the setting of this story is the main character's city, or Rosalba's city. Now, when we're answering the next question, what is the problem? It's a little tricky because this isn't like a traditional story that has a very specific problem or a very specific solution. But remember, the problem when we're trying to figure out the problem of the story, we're asking ourselves, what does the character want? Um, so think about that as I flip through the pages. Again, we're thinking about what the character wants. So I'll go back to the beginning, and you guys think, what does Rosalba want in this story? Remember, Rosalba is the main character. All right, so when we're thinking about what the main character wants, we have to ask ourselves, what does Rosalba say that she wants or show that she wants throughout the story? Or as much of the story as we read so far, because we're still pretty much at the beginning. Um, but on this page, we kind of get a sense of what Rosalba wants in this story. She imagines what it would like to be picked up by the birds and carried away so that she could fly. Um, and that would be quite an adventure. And she and her abuela love to go on adventures. So the problem in this story is that Rosalba wants to go on another adventure with her abuela. And there she goes. They're starting their adventure together, and we're going to read all about it. So the problem is that Rosalba would like to go on an adventure with her abuela or her grandmother. All right, let's see where they go. We would fly all over the city. Mira, abuela would say, pointing, and I'd look as we soared over parks and streets, dogs and people. I'm giving you guys some extra time to really look at these pictures because they're absolutely gorgeous. We'd wave to the people waiting for the bus. Buenos dias, we'd say. Buenos dias, good morning, they'd call up to us. We'd fly over factories and trains. Right here it says sprinkles. Sprinkles, sugar. Maybe I should go there and get some for my ice cream because I love ice cream. And glide close to the sea, cerca del mar, we'd say. We'd almost touch the tops of waves. Abuela's skirt would be a sail. She would race with the sailboats. I'll bet she'd win. We'd fly to where the ships are docked and watch people unload fruits from the land where Abuela grew up. Mangoes, bananas, papayas, those are all Spanish words. So are rodeo, patio, and burro. Maybe we'd see a cousin of Abuela's hooking boxes of fruit to a crane. We saw her cousin Daniel once unloading and loading the ships. So look, Rosalba's up here eating a banana that she probably got from the ship. It's very fresh fruit. Out past the boats in the harbor, we'd see the Statue of Liberty. Me gusta, Abuela would say. Abuela really likes her. I do too. We would circle around Liberty's head and wave to the people visiting her. That would remind Abuela of when she first came to this country. Vamos al aeropuerto, she'd say. She'd take me to the airport where the plane that first brought her here landed. Cuidado, Abuela would tell me. We'd have to be careful as we went for a short ride. Now, they definitely have to be careful because these airplanes are taking off. They're starting on the ground and then they're going really fast up into the air to take off. And they don't want to get crashed into because they're not flying in anything. They're just flying as themselves. So they have to be careful, or cuidado. It's a warning that says, be careful. Then we would fly to Tio Pablo's and Tia Elisa's store. Pablo is my uncle, my tio, and Elisa is my aunt, my tia. They'd be surprised when we flew in, but they'd offer us some cool limonada. Flying is hot work. Pero quiero volar más, Abuela would say. She wants to fly more. I want to fly more too. I would want to fly more too. That sounds like fun. We could fly to las nubes, the clouds. One looks like a cat, un gato. One looks like a bear, un oso. One looks like a chair, una silla. Descansemos un momento, Abuela would say. She wants to rest a moment. We would rest in our chair, and Abuela would hold me in her arms, with the whole sky our house, nuestra casa. So we can see the chair cloud that they're sitting in, and the bear cloud right here that they see, and the cat cloud is down here. We'd be as high as airplanes, balloons, and birds, and higher than the tall buildings downtown. But we'd fly there too to look around. We could find the building where my father works. Hola, papa, I'd say as I waved, and Abuela would do a flip for fun as we passed by the windows. Now that is a talented grandma. I have never seen my grandmother do a flip, but this Abuela is doing flips in front of windows. That's pretty cool. Mita, I hear Abuela say. Look, she's telling me. I do look. We are back in the park. So now they're back where they first took off. We are waiting by the lake. Abuela wants to go for a boat ride. Vamos a otra aventura, she says. She wants us to go for another adventure. That's just one of the things I love about Abuela. She likes adventures. Abuela takes my hand. Vamos, she says. Let's go. That's the end. All right, so now that we've read the entire story, we can answer the next couple questions. We now know what the solution is and what the lesson learned is. So the first question you're going to think about is, what is the solution of the story? Remember, when we're thinking about the solution, we have to think about the problem first. So the problem was that Rosalba wanted to go on an adventure with her grandmother. So thinking about that, what do you think the solution is? I'll flip back so we can go through the pictures some more. All right, go ahead. All right. So now that we flipped through the book and we thought about the problem, how Rosalba wants to go on an adventure with her grandmother, and we're thinking about the solution, what do we think the solution is in the story? So as we went through the story, we saw that Rosalba was going on lots of adventures with her abuela. They were flying all over the city. They were visiting family members. They were doing tricks in the air. They were sitting on clouds. This was truly an incredible adventure. So, the solution of this story is that they did go on an adventure. So, they went on this adventure in the sky, and then they're going to go on an adventure in a boat. So, when the problem is that Rosalba wants to go on an adventure with her abuela, the solution is that they do it. They go on adventures together in the air, and now they're about to go into a boat. So the solution is that they go on adventures together. Now, for the lesson learned, this one is going to be a little tricky too. Um, so I'm going to flip through the book again, and I want you guys to do your very best thinking. Think about what the lesson learned could be in this book. All the way back. Oh, and I'm going to flip through and think about what the lesson learned could be. Go ahead. All right. So as we flip through the majority of that book, the Rosalba and her abuela, the main character and her abuela, were going on an adventure throughout the entire city. Now, do we really think that Rosalba and her abuela were flying all over the city? Now, people unfortunately cannot fly, or they haven't figured out a way yet. Um, so that shows us that Rosalba is actually using her imagination throughout this entire book. So when it says we'd be as high as airplanes, balloons, and birds and fly higher than tall buildings downtown, but we'd fly there too to look around. We'd is a contraction word. So part of that word is we, and the other part of that word comes from the word would. So it's we would be as high as airplanes. So it hasn't actually happened. She's just imagining what that it would happen and how that would be. So the lesson learned, but sorry, I got ahead of myself. But they still are having this grand adventure, um, even without really flying. So, what is the lesson learned? The lesson learned is that when you use your imagination, because that's what Rosalba is using here, her imagination, because clearly they cannot fly in the air. I wish that I could fly, but humans can't fly yet. So she is using her imagination, and she's still having an adventure. So the lesson learned is that when you use your imagination, you can always go on an adventure, or that you can go on an adventure anytime you use your imagination. All right, my friends, now that we finished that first page, we're going to move on to the exit ticket. So Exit ticket today is where did Rosalba go with her grandma? Now, she went to a lot of places with her grandmother, but we're only asking you to include at least five. So we need to have five different places that she went with her grandmother. And we can't just be listing places all out of order because then we don't know what happened in the story. We need to make sure that they're in the correct order. And you need to use transition words like first, then, next, after, and finally to organize your writing. So, for example, we're going to go all the way back to the beginning, or maybe not the beginning. Let's go here. So, I'm not going to, this picture is from kind of the middle of the story, and they're at the park. So, am I going to write about that first? No, no. I'm not going to write about that first. The first thing that I can do is write about the bus because that's what happens on the very first page. So, where did Rosalba go with her grandma? First, Rosalba went on the bus with her grandmother. So, then you need to pick four more places that they went, and we need to make sure that they're in the right order. Are we going to write about the statue of going to the Statue of Liberty before we talk about flying over the city, looking at parks and streets and dogs and people? No, because this happens before the Statue of Liberty. So make sure you're writing in the right order and that you're using transition words to organize your writing. I'm going to put the exit ticket up at the very end so that you guys can see what the exit ticket is if you're not using paper that's in the distance learning folder. Um, and hopefully that'll be helpful. All right, my friends, that is it from me today. I can't wait to read all of your exit tickets, and I will see you. Where's my finger? There it is. Tomorrow. Bye, friends.